Hello, everybody, and welcome back. I am Starset7, and this is Starset7 Gaming. In this YouTube video, I'm going to be going over Bungie's huge TWAB. There is honestly some amazing stuff that they're going to be bringing about next season, and I really think going over it's going to be beneficial for everybody. Before we get into it, if you guys can help me out, just like it says in the button right below my finger right here, hit that subscribe button. It's going to greatly help me out as well as the channel. And don't forget to hit that like button as well. I am probably live right now. If you head over to twitch.tv/Starset7 Gaming, come and hit us up over there. Let us know what you got going on. We can always help with pretty much anything. So, without further ado, let's head into the TWAB and check it out. Alrighty, let's scroll up here. So, I'm going to be basically going over this, paraphrasing some things, and also doing a little bit of word for word, just so I don't read it out of context. So as always, I think Bungie has really come along with listening to the community members, and I really want to give them a hands down for that, as well as this expansion, the Witch Queen expansion. Honestly, has been the best in years, and that is in my opinion. I've been really enjoying it, and so is the community. So kind of go over, they gave their introductions and saying that this week with the TWAB, it is quite big, and what they're talking about, we've got quite a few changes planned for next season, and we're excited to start spreading the word. Well, so am I. I'm really excited for these changes to come, kind of going through for what I've picked out of it so far. Okay, so let's keep our conversation about the live game short and sweet, shall we? Saying that, I mean, like if I look over here, like this little scroll bar, it is huge. So, let's drop down because it's more or less started, even with a solid launch. I've been known to recommend grabbing a drink of water and a snack for the larger TWABs, most definitely. So yeah, if you guys want to sit down and have a beer or a snack or something to chew on while this is going on, feel free to do so. Also, when please watch the video all the way to the end, and if you can, jump in and let me know what you guys think in the comments there. That's always greatly appreciated as well. All right. So in a few short sentences, we'll be passing the mic over to the designer, which is pretty cool. So the staff designer, Chris Proctor. I don't know if I've ever heard from Chris in the past or not, but so they're saying Chris joins us today as a representative of the team, speaking on a few hundred bullets of the sandbox patch notes that were developed by a group of ragtag guardians here in the studio. Each of them contributed many hours of their time to get these changes prepped and ready for season 17. And we're expecting Crucible strategies to shift a bit in just a few short weeks. For those that aren't in tune with intricacies of Destiny Sandbox, this will be a lot to take in. You might need to wait a bit for a fellow community member to break down some of these changes, like me, to be less daunting. From a high level, we're covering the following today. So in here, they're going to be going over a handful of goals from the team. Glave's commentary on their design and some plans for future tuning. Flinch and airborne gameplay, and how pushing these into build crafting. This is actually cool, how they're going to be changing things. Tuning one-hit kills in the Crucible, which is really going to help out amazingly. I mean, like, even in Trials of Osiris. General tuning for special ammo, exotic weapon, legendary archetypes, and a slew of weapon perks. All right, like they're saying, let's get into it here. This is from Chris. In season 17, the sandbox team is making changes across aspects of the sandbox to improve the player experience of PvP. Here are some weapons teams goals to support that. So introduce Leveler to tune how players build for airborne gunplay. So what they're doing is this is really going to affect. You see those ones, they're kind of floating around the map and they get those headshots. Usually it's followed up by the DMT. So Destiny has extremely fluid and expressive airborne movement, but that movement must be balanced against grounded players, lest it becomes oppressive, which it, has been for quite some time. We want players who enjoy that play style to be able to build into it, but they'll have to make tough choices about what they leave behind to do so. Successfully engaging in the air will no longer be as simple as putting on Icarus Grip mod or putting on Icarus Grip mod on it, but the upside for heavily investing in it will be higher. So it's really cool. Let's see what else we got here. Allow players to mitigate for flinch. So excessive flinch and frequent complaint from players. Most importantly, when using primary weapons and taking large chunks of damage from enemies. Players should be able to invest in flinch resistance, and baseline flinch should be lower on primary weapons. 100% agree on that. But hand-tuned per archetype, so that the weapon that need flinch resistance have the easiest access to it. And it's really cool how they're going to be working this flinch resistance into everything. Resistance and / resilience. We'll get into that. Reduce the number of one-hit kills in PvP. So Sandbox overall wants to reduce the number of one-hit kills in PvP, shifting combat more towards primary gunplay, which is interesting. So with weapons, this means tuning special weapons, both the effectiveness of specific weapons and special weapon uptime overall, and key primary outlier. So let's address common feedback on weapons across all game modes. So each season, the weapon team looks at legendary and exotic weapons that are over and underperforming, which is really cool. And further down, we'll actually take a look at that as well, and make adjustments. In season 17 will be a larger pass than usual. So basically, they'll just be going over a larger amount of weapons and changing them and tuning them as needed, with more of the focus underused weapons and PvP balance. With our goal stated, let's get the meat of it all. So Glaive a rave. And I don't know about you guys. I mean, a lot of people are like, oh, I don't like glaives. Oh, I don't use glaives. My glaive right now, as we speak, is level 148. And I've got, I do believe it was like 14,600 kills or something like that, 14,500 kills. So I love the glaive, and making it work with the build is why I love it so much. I love using it for ad clear. It demolishes everything. And basically, unless they're asking you to use like a different subclass, to complete a bounty, or for the most part, I use my glaive in everything. Add Clear Heaven. So get into it. We've noticed that several aspects of how glaives interact with weapon and armor perks don't match player expectation. So it has been brought up about how glaives should be melee, or if the like when you fire the glaive, should be melee, or is it a powered weapon, or and so on. So they're going to be kind of touching on that. And we want to take some time to clarify the intent the changes include in Season 17 and the logic we'll use for future changes. A glaive melee is a basic melee attack, not a weapon attack. Does not consume ammo and deals kinetic damage. So it's more like an unpowered punch than a sword swing, which is interesting because, like I said, you're using it as melee, but it's like they said, it's like an unpowered punch, which means that why it's taking, I do believe right now with an unpowered punch, it's like 3 hits. So allowing buffs to weapon damage to apply to glaive melees would be too powerful for something without an ammo limitation, particularly in PvP, or even small damage buffs would allow for incredibly fast 2-hit kills. And I do agree, but I don't know. I think if you're lowering it just a little less than 3 for, a 3-hit kill, because that's what it's at right now, is a 3-hit kill. What is the balance going to be there? Is it going to be just above 2, or is it going to be just below 3? Kind of going to be interesting. Also, in general, we would prefer to increase glaive melee damage directly, as we're doing in fact. Instead of effectively making weapon damage perks mandatory on glaives. Glaives already have a long lunge distance. Increasing this at all results in unreliable behavior over the network. So no melee lunge distance buffs apply to glaive melees. So if you've noticed, you could be a little ways away, lunge with the glaive, and it'll actually pull you towards whatever enemy you're trying to kill. I actually found this out brutally the other day in Vault of Glass. I was on the left side of Templar, killing the ads that were coming out right beside Templar, and I'm glaving away. And the glaive got really hungry and pulled me right into Templar. So that lunge is what they're talking about here, and they're saying that there will be no buffs to the lunge, and I don't disagree. I mean, you shouldn't be lunging like a huge distance. I would say less than a glaive distance. I think is what it's at right now, or about a glaive distance, to get the hits that you're looking for in PvP or PvE. Our intent is glaive melees should activate perks that trigger off-base melee damage or kills. For example, ammo refills for Glaive Robber, weapon damage buffs 5 times stack on Swashbuckler, ammo refills from sealed Ahamkara grasps. So we all know that, different ways of putting your build together are going to give you different outcomes for what you have for perks and how they kind of go together. Glaive melees should not activate perks that trigger off-powered melee damage or kills, or require expending subclass melee energy, such as a combination blows or assassin's cowl. And really, taking a look at what they're talking about, like Assassin's Cowl and how it works with some of the builds, whether it's using the glaive, you're using Assassin's Cowl for the invis perks on it, or something like the sealed Ahamkara grasps, which to me, really, I don't use, and I don't think I ever will. They kind of suck. Moving on, glaive melees should benefit from melee damage buffs, such as Winter's Guile or Worm God Caress. So I definitely do agree. If there is a piece of armor that you're putting on and it buffs melee, it should buff glaive melee. Glaive melee should not benefit from weapon damage buffs. I don't know, such as Rampage, Kill Clip, and Swashbuckler. No, and really, like your Rampage, Kill Clip, and Swashbuckler should not um, buff glaive melee, being that these are made for when shooting the glaive or shooting a weapon. Period. I mean, and you don't get Rampage perked when you're stabbing something. So why should it perk when using glaive melee? Glaive projectiles should benefit from weapon damage buffs, i.e., what they're just talking about here: Rampage, Kill Clip, and Swashbuckler. With that expectation set, there are some inconsistencies with how these are implemented in the game. Some of which we've already fixed, some which we'll look at in the future. So, really, the future is when. I mean, when I look at it, and Bungie's always about feedback, and they're loving the feedback. I mean, you even get. To quote DMGO4, if you guys have any questions, don't be afraid to ask. It might take them a little while to get to it, but if they can, they will get to the questions. So, moving on. Once we have these guidelines consistently implemented in game, we may look at specific cases where this doesn't match player expectation and do something custom, updating descriptions where needed for clarification. But our primary goal is that players be able to predict how a glaive interaction will work. So, like, it was very big when glaives first came in, that, oh, well, it's not doing this, it's not doing that, or it's doing this and it should be doing that. And it took them a little while to kind of work out how it was supposed to interact. Really, I just use it as smash everything, shoot things with shields, smash them again, and then they die. And on to the next part. Here's what we changed during Season 16. Largely bug fixes, which some quality of life changes. So these changes are as follows. Glaive projectiles hits to reach maximum energy decreased from 6 to 4, which was noticeable. Glaive melee can now be interrupted by Hunter Dodge, which is interesting because I don't know how that works. The Grave Robber perk now pulls from reserves on glaive instead of generating ammo. The generating ammo part was actually interesting because once you perked Grave Robber, you literally generated ammo instead of, like, it's saying pulled from reserves. So you were getting a full new clip of ammo instead of just, oh, maybe you only have a couple of shots from reserves. So glaives no longer get stuck in clang recovery when using a melee attack on each other. Sealed Ahamkara grasps no longer reloads glaives on projectile hits, but does on melee hits as expected. So if you know how the Ahamkara grasps work specifically with the glaive, I've never actually tried that build out myself. You would know what they're talking about. Glaive melee can no longer stun lock high health combatants. So it was like you could basically shoot a combatant if you had stun, like your stun melee or your stun glaive, suppressive glaive, and it would stun them, and then you could just melee them to death. So it was actually really useful, I thought. Now they just they turn around and be like, "What are you doing?" and just smack you into oblivion. Glaive melee kills are now tracked in match history for bounties and so forth. So the melees weren't being tracked. It wasn't being tracked as melee, which is kind of just like a short sight on their part when they brought the melee or when they brought the glaive out, because it's just another form of melee. We're pushing glaives deeper into their roles of hard hitting melee damage and near complete protection when shielded, as well as increasing projectile speed to make them more reliable at range. Note, the glaive shield grants 97.5% damage resistance in PvE and 75% damage resistance in PvP. So that really goes a long way if you're thinking about when using that glaive to shield against combatants in PvE or PvP. The 75% damage resistance, that's huge. All right. So increased melee damage versus PvE enemies except for bosses and vehicles. So increased melee damage versus PvE enemies to bosses and except for bosses and vehicles by 25%. Reduced energy drain speed while shielded by 30%, which is great. So you're not going to lose that glaive shield as fast as normal. Increased projectile speed dependent on the range stat. So at 0 stat increased from 30 to 60, and at 100 stat increased from 80 to 100. So that is going to be quite a bit of a difference of that travel speed. So you're not going to have as much of the target moving away, and your projectile is going to get there in the timely manner that it should, other than taking forever and they're like, oh, I'll just dodge this. Moving on. Exotic glaives have been buffed as well, in addition to the global glaive changes, which make it easier to build energy, projectile speeds making landing shots easier, and energy granted per projectile hit. 1 second. All right, so Titan glaives, edge of action. Players now gain a void over shield while inside the bubble. This is really cool how they're going to implement this. So Titan glaives, edge of action. Players now gain a void over shield while inside the bubble. Helm of Saint 14 now applies to this bubble as it does Ward of Dawn. That is cool. I can't wait to see this in action, and I really can't wait to try it out myself. Currently, like, my main character is a hunter. I haven't played so much the Warlock or the Titan, so I can't go in depth on how it really does work, but I know it is going to be cool in theory. So Warlock Glaive, Edge of Intent, increased speed and acceleration of healing turret projectiles, and the Hunter Glaive, Edge of Concurrence, tripled the damage of wave detonation, increased the number of enemies it can chain from 4 to 8. So that is going to help out greatly with Edge of Concurrence. Getting that from 4 to 8, really going to help out. So global changes with flinch. So aim deflection on receiving damage, typically called flinch. This is a common pain point, particularly on primary ammo weapons. We've rebuilt the stability weapon stat to grant flinch resistance in addition to its other effects, with a maximum flinch resistance of 10 to 25%, dependent on weapon archetype. With this change, players can build for flinch resistance more easily on weapons that feel flinch more than others, and less so on special weapons, which we don't want to be easier to use when under fire. From internal playtest, you may not feel the difference when using just one source of flinch resistance, but when stacking two or more sources, that the benefit is strong. So the two or more sources is going to be how they're going to input mods, non-flinching mods into the game, and how your resilience is going to work with that flinch, which we'll talk about in here. Note that higher zoom weapons are more affected by flinch, which we took into account when tuning these numbers. So they go over the breakdown. So here's the breakdown for flinch resistance with 100% stability. So 25% to auto rifles, submachine guns, and bows, 20% to pulse rifles, scout rifles, sidearms, machine guns, 15% to hand cannons and trace rifles, and 10% to fusion rifles, shotguns, sniper rifles, grenade launchers, both breach and drum, linear fusion rifles, and both special and heavy ammo versions, so rocket launchers. Note that a stability stat of below 20 will technically have a small flinch resistant penalty, but only around 5 weapons have a stability stat in that range. Mentioning here because it's related in the change, it's a related change. The resilience character stat now grants resistance of 0 at 0 stat. So let's go over that. If you look at your character and you're putting high resilience, or you have no resilience, so right now if you have 0, you have 0 flinch. So if you put, say, 7 or 74 or whatever, you have 74% flinch resilience or resistance. So the higher the resilience, the higher the flinch resistance. All right. So examples note that sources of flinch resistance stack, blah, 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 blah. That word, multiplicavity. Anyways, moving on. A 100 stability stat Suros pulse rifle with Suros synergy active. So that has 10% resilience, no distraction, and 2 unflinching pulse rifle ammo mods will buff by rally barricade. So they go over how they're getting to these numbers, the mathematics, which I am just really going to skip because I have no clue how they come up with these numbers. I mean, I understand the equations, but anyways. All right, so airborne gunplay. Before getting into build crafting, we've made a fundamental change to the modifiers applied while airborne. Your primary weapons will have less randomness in projectile accuracy in most cases. You'll have less aim. You'll have less aim assist instead, and will need precise aiming to land those shots without building heavy into airborne. So it's kind of cool how they're changing this around to give airborne combatants less of an advantage. We've added a new weapon stat, airborne effectiveness. So I imagine you're going to be seeing this, like it's saying next season, airborne effectiveness. More than likely, I'm going to see it on the DMT. To be specific about weapons, which is present on all weapons except for those where being airborne doesn't have an effect. Sword is an example of that, which maps onto aspects of airborne gunplay using these guidelines. So the guidelines are as such. With little to no investment, so 0 to 30, airborne stat, a character will have a smaller accuracy penalty than retail, but will have significantly lower aim assist. With minimal investment, 31 to 50, airborne stat, a character will have around the same in-air accuracy as Icarus equipped weapons do currently, but with noticeably lower aim assist. With a substantial investment, 51 to 70% airborne stat, a character will have better accuracy than retail weapons with Icarus, with fewer misses due to randomness, but with reduced aim assist. With specialized investment, that's the 71 to 99% airborne stat, a character will have no airborne accuracy penalty with a very slightly less aim assist. So the more you're putting into your airborne stat, the less you're getting in aim assist. With full investment, so 100% airborne stat, a character will have no airborne accuracy penalty and the same aim assist. Moving on, this stat has been hand tuned in all exotic weapons. Everything that shipped in season 16 and or 17, and everything that ever shipped as Trials of Osiris or Nightfall loot. So older legendary weapons have a default value set per weapon archetype to a value just below the middle of the allowed stat range. Note, this will be hidden stat at Season 17's launch trailer. This will be a hidden stat at Season 17 launch. So, I don't know what that means. A hidden stat? Well, why is it hidden? Similar to aim assist and recoil direction, you'll be able to check the stat on a specific weapon through the API, and in Season 18, several previously hidden stats will be visible on the weapon inspection screen, which is what I'm getting at. It should be available in Season 17 on day one, not Season 18, a whole season away. This stat influences several aspects of airborne gunplay. And this airborne gunplay is aim assist, cone. I am actually going to skip this because I don't think it bears much relevance to a degree, talking about the cone and how it's you're targeting cone. To me, it's just let's go. What this means overall is that you'll get fewer misses due to randomness from the accuracy cone while airborne, but reliance on aiming is much higher at a low stat. To make this easier, you will need to build into airborne. With decent aim, you will land more body shots instead of crits, which is interesting because they're just saying aim better, quit relying on the computer. before and after examples, yes, they go into basically the degrees and everything for hand cannons and sniper rifles. The airborne effectiveness stat comes from three sources: weapon, subclass, and armor. Going over weapons, the weapons base airborne effectiveness stat with ranges verifying from 0 to 10, or varying from 0 to 10 and from 0 to 30 depending on the weapon archetype. Exotic weapons typically get bumped up, i.e. higher stat than legendary weapons in that archetype. The Icarus Grip Adept Icarus weapon mod is plus 15. Certain weapon perks, such as redesigned air assault, which is interesting. Valid stat ranges for legendary weapons, exotics, and then they kind of go over what you're gaining in the different weapons that are being used. Higher tiers of legendary weapons, trials, raid, and nightfall use the upper end of these ranges. So your trials weapons, your raid weapons, and your nightfall weapons are going to have the higher end, just because to me those weapons are harder to achieve. And some examples of those are outlined below here. So subclasses, the Heat Riser ability is plus 70, while Heat Rises is active, i.e. on consuming your grenade. So that would be for Warlocks. The Tempered Metal ability is plus 20 after getting a solar weapon kill. The Whisper of Hedron Stasis Fragment is plus 20 after freezing a target. Exotic armor that revolves around being airborne or works on specific weapons grants a bonus or penalty in the minus to plus 40 range or higher if conditional. So they kind of go over what some of those exotics are. This means that in general, if you want good airborne effectiveness, say a 70 stat, you should pick a weapon with a higher stat, put Icarus on it, and either equip an exotic armor piece that helps, or run a subclass aspect, or fragment, or ability. And if you want the best possible airborne effectiveness, you'll generally have to go all in on weapon, exotic armor, and subclass. So you guys know how those should know how those builds are going to work with being airborne, using heat risers, using the Icarus grip, and probably using your solar subclass is what I would be thinking they're talking about. And like they're going over the examples of exactly what I was kind of saying. So Frontier's Cry with precision hand cannon bonus, Icarus grip, and Lucky Pants, you're going to get 19 plus 25 plus 15 equals a 79 airborne effectiveness. Putting submission on with Icarus grip Stompies, Temper Metal active, you're going to get 27 plus 15 minus 50 plus 20 is a 12 airborne effectiveness. The Taraba, Peacekeepers, and Whisper of Hedrons active, you're going to get this amount here, which is going to give you an 83% airborne effectiveness, which isn't bad. Skyburner's Oath and Heat Rises active, you are going to get a 100% airborne effectiveness, i.e. it is capped at 100%. You can't get 101, you can't get 110, it doesn't matter. All right, so this is a big weapon system change. We'll be monitoring how it rolls out and expect to make adjustments post ship. So they're really going to be watching how everything is going to work together, as well as waiting for our feedback as the community members, which is greatly going to help them to make any changes that need to come about. We'll be monitoring it just in post ship. For fun, here are some graphs showing the most used armor exotics across each class. We'll be watching data and feedback once these changes are live to see how things shift. So this is cool. And honestly, Bungie, I would love to see these every week in the TWABs. To kind of go over like what people are using, what weapons are being used the most, because you notice like all of a sudden Shayura's Wrath is doing good in the Crucible. Everybody is using Shayura's Wrath. Next thing you know, Lord of Wolves is doing good in the Crucible. Everybody's using Lord of Wolves. So if we take a look at what this the green line is here, let's go down and take a look at Knucklehead Radar, which really blows my mind because I think it's I don't use it. I don't think it's very useful. So kind of interesting that it has 10%. And let's take a look at what this is. So this has got 10% or just above 10%. And this is the dark, so non-exotic armor, which, you know, still should have a big. And then there's Stompies. Stompies just takes over everything, which I do believe is why they gave it a nerf. Going on to the Titan. Huge difference there. And going Ophidian aspects. So this is for the Warlock. Like I said, I would love to see these graphs every single week to kind of go over what people have been using, how it's interacting, and so on. So playlist weapons. Just a second. All right, so playlist weapons. The latest playlist weapons drop from Gambit, Crucible, and Strike activity completions. Older weapons are available from vendor rank packages or can be focused. Only certain weapons. Only certain seasonal weapons can be focused. These weapons are intended to provide interesting drops, even for players who spend a lot of time in an activity. And while we want to keep the large perk pool to address that goal, we want to provide a way to reduce the duration of the chase for players who want a specific weapon. Also, since the older playlist weapons are still available as vendors rank up rewards, we want them to feel more relevant in a post-origin trait world. If that all makes sense to you. Playlist weapons now have a chance to roll with extra traits in one or both columns, increasing with the number of rank resets with that vendor during a given season. So some of the weapons that you're getting now, they are rolling with 2 different perks. So you can pick one or the other, which is really cool. Note, reputation resets each season, so you'll need to play these activities each season to unlock the potential for extra perks. Of course, you have to grind to get perks. All playlist weapons from Beyond Light and later will drop with appropriate origin traits, such as Headstone. I do believe is an origin trait. I could be wrong, but this change eliminates rounding and other errors, particularly on adept weapons, masterworks, and enhanced traits, and better conveys the bounds a weapon stat can exist within. This is purely a display change. No weapon behavior has changed but you should expect all existing weapon stat bars to look slightly different. And literally, aesthetically speaking, there are a lot of things that are going to change uh, when you look at them. And there have been already a few aesthetic changes, even if you look at the tower. So one hit kills and special ammo. There are several damage buffs external to weapons that allow weapons to one hit kill without much investment, such as an aggressive sniper rifle with high impact reserves, Ariana's Vow, or Le Monarch. And it they're literally things that people are putting on, and if you can hear even in my voice, the frustration behind it, getting those headshots, and they one hit. Ariana's Vow, one hit. Le Monarch, one hit. As long as you're hitting that crit spot right in the head, one hit. Especially when combined with an external 20% damage buff. As an example, Empowering Rift can give many sniper rifles one-hit body shot capabilities in the Crucible. So most of these use the same buff under the hood, so we've just adjusted them all at once. With these changes, it's going to be much rarer to get an easy one-hit kill with a weapon that wouldn't typically allow it. Reduce the damage bonus for Empowering Rifts, as well as high energy fire, and inertia override from 20% to 15% against players. So no effect in PvE, which is good. In addition, we want special ammo to be less plentiful, making it more difficult to chain special weapon kills. So they're disabled ammo scavenger armor mods in PvP. So that's a big one. I mean, that's big. But, all you have to do in PvP to get special ammo back is just kill somebody and take their ammo. No matter how much ammo a player was carrying on death, if you pick up a special brick, you can only get one ammo for a shotgun, sniper rifle, or one kill's worth of ammo for weapons that require more than one shot to kill. E.g., examples, so Forerunner, so getting, instead of picking up a brick and getting two shots, you're going to pick up a brick and get one shot, because with Forerunner, you can one shot somebody. Return several special weapon archetypes and exotic weapons, see below, with general goals of reducing the effectiveness and uptime of special weapons. So archetypes, let's talk about archetypes. Special weapons, in particular shotguns and fusion rifles, are responsible for more one-hit kills than we like in PvP. No kidding. And it's just frustrating. I mean, the one-hit kills with a shotgun are gross. I'll say it again, gross. We still want them to be an option, but less. Yeah, whatever that word. Where did you guys find? Did you guys pull out a thesaurus? Ubiquitous. Good God. Use regular words. Very ubiquitous, less effective, and multiple range, and with lower uptime. Ubiquitous. I'm going to ubiquitous this next sentence. All right, so special weapons. All special weapons have had their in-air accuracy slightly reduced. While we are okay with encouraging players to build into using their primary weapon more effectively in the air, we do not believe a prevalence of airborne one-hit kill options is good for PvP. And we have agreed with that for a very long time as the community, and we've voiced our concerns about how those floating people are getting ridiculous kills. So special weapons have a slightly larger airborne accuracy penalty than primary weapons at 0 airborne effectiveness stat, reduced to 0 at 100 stat. Special weapons have a similar airborne aim assist cone penalty to other weapons, around 50% at 0 stat, and this penalty can be reduced, but not entirely removed by investing in airborne effectiveness. So it's really going to be interesting how people are going to get these builds for airborne effectiveness. Remember, the more you're putting into airborne effectiveness is the less aim assist that you are going to get. Sniper rifles are fairly slow to ready, stow, and aim down sights, which has made snapshot feel mandatory for many players in PvP. Yes, reduced stow, ready, and aim down sights times by 10%, i.e., all snipers are now snappier than a matching change to snapshot below. So that snapshot sights is going to give you the 10% increased looking into that sight. Sniper rifles have less access to ammo than shotguns and fusion rifles, where kills drop ammo right in front of you. So like I said, you kill someone, it drops an ammo brick instead of picking it up. If it's a fresh ammo brick, you're only going to get one shot. If it's a one kill weapon, you're going to get one shot, unless it's a weapon where it takes multiple shots as long as it's a special ammo weapon that takes multiple shots to kill a target, then you are going to get multiple ammo. All right. So we think ammo scarcity will prevent sniper rifles from spiking, which it won't. I don't know who went to think that, but I'll tell you right now, it won't. People love their sniper rifles, and there are people out there that are amazing with sniper rifles. You give some of those people a millimeter to see a shot, to see that headshot, and they will take it. All right, so slug and pellet shotguns are still overwhelmingly popular in PvP despite some recent changes. So they have tried to nerf how shotguns are in PvP, and people are just still shotgun spamming their lives away. So we've touched them again with the goal of encouraging some diversity of special weapon choice. Giving them a choice, that was where you went wrong. You should have just nerfed them hugely in PvP and went on with it. We're keeping an eye on this change. Since we touched shotguns multiple times recently, we will adjust it if needed. This change, we expect shotguns to have a shorter one-hit kill distance, but still be effective enough that a short range be effective enough in that short range kill role. Well, yes, like I can see if you're running up to someone with a shotgun and you're going to short range kill them, yes. But what I don't want to see is a person running up and short range popping a person, one hitting them. I don't know. To me, it shouldn't be happening in PvP. This change reduces shotgun one hit kill distance by around 0.5 meters. So because the importance of spread angle is just as high as damage fall off, and this is not being touched. So reduce damage fall off on start and end at 1 meter or by 1 meter. Reduced aim assist and magnetism fall off start and end by 2 meters. So fusion rifle usage is trending pretty high. We know. Particularly in trials, and bringing shotguns down a little more would make them too good of an option. Specifically, it would. Really, people are taking advantage of one-hit fusion rifle kills just as much as one-hit shotgun kills. So we've made a global change. With these changes, so 20 meters plus, fusion rifle one-hit kills should vary uncommon. Fusion rifle one-hit kills should be very uncommon through a combination of damage, fall off, and recoil changes. So reduce damage, fall off near distances, and they go over the equations in the ADS that's involved in that. I am not going to go over that. And like I love, we have another graph. So seeing this, the likely suspect, null composure, the big one is the main ingredient being used. And then you've got timelines, the Vex, the Snorri, plug one, which is the plug one actually is not a bad fusion rifle. And then you got the Deliverance and the Cartesian. So moving on, when we rebuilt fusion rifles in season 15, we wanted to differentiate the subfamilies dramatically from each other, which worked. It did work. Now that we've seen them in action for a couple of seasons, we're pulling back from the extremes a little. Yeah, it really did kind of go a little bit overboard, getting one-hit kills with the fusion rifles. Some of them are just broken. With these changes, fusion rifles subfamilies are still very different from each other, but high impacts are stronger, and rapid fire and precisions should be a little less dominant. So high impact, reduced unmodified high impact charge from 1 to 0.96, increased damage per burst by 10. So precision increased unmodified charge time from 0.7 to 0.74 to 0.78. I do believe seconds is what it's the S. Rapid fire increased unmodified charge time from 0.46 to 0.5, decreased damage per burst by 20. New charge time and damage per burst from all fusion rifles families. So these are just the more stats that they're going over for the high impact, precision, adaptive, and rapid fire archetypes. So besides Divinity, trace rifles aren't as popular in hard content as we wanted them to be. Well, yes, you can say for this season that would be true. For last season, I would say, on the other hand, it was not, because last season you had particle deconstruction, which everybody was using because it just tore through enemies. We particularly want damage type reworks of the oldest three trace rifles to have a chance to shine this season. So oldest three trace rifles, which is going to be cool. And they're also more affected by disabling scavenger armor mods than our special ammo. With this change, there were better use of special ammo against non-red bar targets. Increased trace rifle damage against non-red bar combatants by 20, and increased ammo pickup per special ammo brick from 18 to 30. Like, that's almost double. So, hell yeah. Gonna love that. Cool. So primary weapons. Auto rifles and pulse rifles aren't as competitive. No, they're really not. I mean, unless you're using like a summoner, or which I have found, the gnawing hunger has come back into play where a lot of people are using it, which is really cool because I thought it was a really fun auto rifle to use. Pulse rifle, meh, not so much. You kind of see that battler rolling around here and there, but not so much. And lightweight pulse rifles are hard to use to their optimal time to kill. With these changes, we expect auto rifles and pulse rifles to be better compete with hand cannons in mid to long range and outrange standard zoom submachine guns. Excuse me. All right, so increased damage fall off near distance of 0.75 meters. Pulse rifles, so they increase damage fall off near distance based on the range stat. So 0 range increased from 15 to 16 meters. 100% or 100 range increased from 22.5 meters to 24 meters. That's quite a bit. Note that this is the hip fire fall off distance and is multiplied by the zoom value to get the aim down sights fall off distance. Alrighty. Going over more to do with so increased light rate, 450 RPM pulse rifles, damage per bullet to 15 to 16 with a 1.65 times precision scalar. This will increase precision damage from 24.75 to 26.4, which is huge. This won't change an optimal time to kill in PvP, but will reduce the number of crits required. A zoom is too important a factor on submachine guns. And submachine guns with low zoom don't feel competitive in PvP. Well, really, they don't. I mean, there is no zoom on an SMG, not very much in PvP. So we've reduced variance in zoom, brought the base zoom from 13 to 14, and extended the damage fall off distance. With this change, several standard zoom submachine guns will be more competitive, but this does not make the inaccessible submachine gun inaccessible submachine gun with highest perk trait RNG. The multi-mac doesn't matter. You can't get the multi-mac anymore anyways. Compete less with auto rifles, and it will no longer straight up outclass every other submachine gun in the game, which is interesting. The multi-mac, really, it was good. It was it was a iron banner weapon that you could get. To me, that at close range was absolutely amazing. Increased damage fall off by 1.5 meters. Adjust zoom values. Most valuable legendary submachine guns and exotics. So Shariah's Wrath from 17 to 16. The multi-mac with max zoom scope from 17 to 15. Second highest, we'll bring this to 14 instead. And the stoic, the stochastic, yeah, I just can't say it. Stochastic variable, 13 to 14. Ikilos, just nothing. Just nothing to change from the Witch Queen here, 13 to 14. Seventh Seraph, 13 to 14. Every Waking Moment, 13 to 14. And the Huckleberry itself from 13 to 15. So, Huckleberry, remember that. We like adaptive submachine guns and are starting to make them again. But in their current form, they kill a little too fast with body shots. They do, and that's why I like using them at close range. So we reduce body damage to increase their body shot time to kill by 1 bullet without impacting their optimal time to kill. Increased body damage from 12 or decreased body damage from 12 to 11.25, and increased precision multiplier from 1.35 to 1.44. So you're going to get faster kills with headshots and slower kills with body shots, but only by 1 bullet. So it doesn't make that much of a difference. Precision frame hand cannons have always been good while airborne. So effectively having built-in Icarus grip, and with changes to airborne functionality, we wanted to preserve that feel while translating their advantage to the new system. So Intrinsic switched from a 75% airborne accuracy penalty reduction to plus 25% effectiveness stat. This means that if you had a Frontier's Cry with Icarus grip mod in it, you would be at 19 plus 25 plus 15 to be 59 before factoring in armor or subclass, which is cool. Moving on to heavy weapons. So the machine guns are still still aren't where we want them to be in PvE, and really they're not. There's, Bungie, you nerfed the Zeno. The Zeno was amazing. The Zeno didn't need to be touched. Yes, I understand in Gambit, they could one shot, but hell, that thing is an exotic that you grinded for, and they should one shot. This is in my own opinion. I mean, people take it as you will, but machine guns to me, they're not useful. You can do one shot with a rocket, and it takes a whole clip with a machine gun. Like, why use it? So we're giving them an additional buff, but but less so against bosses, where their extremely long range and deep ammo reserves would make them strong in too many rolls. With this change, they'll shred most enemies without stepping onto top tier boss damage options. Increased damage, so machine guns, right? All right. Increased damage by 40% against PvE enemies, 20% versus bosses. So that is greatly going to make a difference. Xenophage and Grand Overture receive this buff. Awesome. Thank you, Bungie. Except for the bonus versus bosses. Sword stats have been inconsistent for a while now. So we've tidied all these up, mostly cosmetic. Yeah, so you changed the look to make it better? Ha! You just made cooler swords? What did you do? Fix several inconsistencies in stat display between different swords. This has no gameplay impact. So increased the charge rate stat for Solace Scar from 20 to 50 to match Temptation's hook. So rocket launcher subfamilies. And when they say subfamilies, they're talking about the archetypes. Weren't differentiated enough by previous change. So we've made the differences more extreme. With this change, we expect there to be more marketed trade-off for the intrinsic tracking on precision. And this is something that I brought up before. If you look at a tracking module perk on a rocket launcher, some of them, like if you're standing still and you're on that target and you sometimes you can hear it go doo doo doo, and it's telling you I'm locked on, fire now, and that just goes whizzing right by their head. You're like, well, where was that tracking module? Yeah, kind of went right by their head. So rocket launchers. So we've made the differences more extreme. This change, we expect there to be more marked trade-off for the intrinsic tracking precisions, and a greater benefit for other subfamilies. Specified relative to the baseline, i.e., high impact rocket launchers. Precision, so minus 10% damage, both impact and detonation. High impact, no change. This subfamily has the highest blast radius, and adaptive and aggressive is a plus 10 damage. So if you do notice, these two are going to have the best. So make sure you're looking for that archetype, the high impact and the adaptive and aggressive. So they are getting the buff. Exotics. So all exotics that shipped before the Forsaken release now have their trackers visible by default. So Fighting Lions needed a bit more of a buff. So we've improved reload speed. When Thin the Herd is active, a couple of releases back, and now we're increasing its blast radius and damage. Well, thank God. I mean, Biting Lions, it's a cool grenade launcher. It's, there should have been no reason it shouldn't have done more damage, and it was an exotic. You go and take a legendary rocket launcher like the Mountaintop, and it was doing better damage than the Biting Lions. Well, why? So with this change, it should be easier to get the damage you need to trigger its perk. So reverted the season 15 breach grenade launcher blast radius reduction, but just for Fighting Lions, i.e. increased blast radius by 0.4 meters, increased damage by 5%, which really isn't much. Honestly, they could have increased that damage probably up to 8 to 10%, and it would have helped out a little bit better. So Eye of Tomorrow, as a raid exotic, ought to be better against tough PvE enemies. With this change, it's a solid option for this role, particularly with Adaptive Ordnance perk active. Increased damage versus bosses and champions by 30%. Leviathan's Breath, which is the bow, always felt like it should absolutely wreck champions. And using its first shot to stun an unstoppable champion without it doing much damage felt bad. And it was the reason why I've never really used Leviathan's Breath. Actually, I don't think I've ever used Leviathan's Breath. Archer's Tempo from its Catalyst is significant on paper, but practice the draw speed buff isn't as noticeable as we'd like. Overall, we hope these changes make it feel a bit better against all type of champions and other tough enemies in hard content. The Archer's Tempo perk from the Catalyst now has increased effect just on this weapon. So Leviathan's Breath. The standard draw time scaler for Archer's Tempo is 0.75 times and is now 0.5625 times on Leviathan's Breath. Interesting. Yeah, so you had a higher draw time. It would take longer. Now you have a lower draw time. It takes less. Added the small delay before detonation on champions, mini bosses, and bosses. This allows the impact to stun unstoppable champions and the detonation to deal bonus damage against the stun champion. Damage change to more of an even split between impact and detonation and increased damage across the board by minus 50%. Interesting. Overall damage versus champions is roughly doubled, even more compared to shooting an unstunned, unstoppable champion. The Huckleberry had an overwhelming engagement range, so updated zoom based on the change to the to baseline submachine gun zoom. So they increased the zoom from 13 to 15, which is going to help. Our experiment with pushing Zeno into harder hitting but slower firing didn't pan out. No shit. So we're increasing the rate of fire and adjusting damage back to what it was. Thank God. So increased rate of fire from 100 RPM to 120. It's an exotic. It's supposed to clap. Like, thank you for changing it back. I can't wait. Reduced damage per bullet. Like, it drove me. I loved using Zeno for a long time, especially in Gambit. Zeno or the Truth. Getting the galley. Now it's galley. Really having it back where it is actually going to one-shot a Guardian. Because when I stood there and I got a body shot and it didn't one-shot somebody, I was like, what happened here? Someone took my favorite toy and broke it. Well, yeah. Doesn't benefit from Season 17 machine gun damage buff versus bosses. No, but you're still getting quite a bit of damage from the Zeno on bosses anyways. All right, on to the Le Monarch. The Le Monarch is too oppressive when combined with external damage buffs, but we felt that it could be stronger in PvE. With this change combined with the damage buff changes above, we introduced a 60 resilience gate on killing a Guardian in PvP with a crit while in an empowering rift or similar. Interesting. Reduced poison tick damage versus player by 25%. Changed poison damage type from burn to poison. Yeah, I was always wondering why burn to poison. It should poison, not burn. This is largely housekeeping, not gameplay significant. So increased poison tick damage versus AI by 50%. You'll still notice quite a bit of a difference. So really, they're going over a lot of these. I would call them maybe like broken in PvP weapons, like the Lawrence Driver, Le Monarch. So Lawrence Driver can be difficult to fight against in PvP, in part because it does very high body shot. It does. body shot damage. So with this change, getting left super weak by the body shot, you should be it should be less common. Though we're keeping an eye on how this change lands and may revisit it later. Reduced body shot damage against players by 20%. So Lawrence Driver is getting a nerf by 20%. So you can probably see that go away in PvP. I won't say no to that. So body damage reverts to old behavior when in the weapons damage mode. Precision damage in any mode unchanged. So on to Skyburner's Oath. Felt like it didn't have a niche. And it didn't. I mean, if you weren't, it was Skyburner's Oath, if you were using it against the Cabal, it really wasn't useful. So except for airborne memes. So we've made a bunch of changes aiming to improve its ease of use, give it some more utility, and really polish it into an airborne role. Increased ADS projectile speed to 99999, i.e. this projectile is now hit scan, which I don't have a clue what that means. Both ADS and hip fire are now 150 RPM. Hip fire projectiles no longer track, but arcs similar to grenade launcher, and has a larger detonation size than ADS. Right on. The hip fire detonation also applies to burn. Applies a burn to targets, and the bonus range from the masterwork has been rolled into the base stat of the weapon. The masterwork now grants bonus reload speed instead. Has the highest airborne effectiveness stat of any weapon in the game. So, hello Skyburners. For people, Skyburners going to be super broke in PvP. Moving on to the last word. Very differently on mouse and keyboard than it does on controller. But the disparity doesn't need to be that large. We're keeping an eye on this one as well. So last word, reduced mouse and keyboard recoil penalty from 33 to 25. So you can more than likely going to notice a little bit of a difference using the last word on MNK. Moving on to the Arbalist. Arbalist is more dominant than intended in hard PvE content. Well, yeah, it's a good weapon to use. That's why we use it. Able to fill the entire barrier role, as well as shield breaking and boss damage. We like that, though. We've made a fairly small adjustment here, but may need to look at it in the future, in a future season. Reduce damage versus champions by 25%, which is going to suck. We'll still break barriers in one hit, though. So Graviton Lance is the next. So the Catalyst didn't help the weapon enough. I agree. I really loved using the Graviton Lance, but it just didn't perform. In some scenarios, yes. In higher content, like Nightfalls, higher Nightfalls, Grandmasters, it just did not perform. All right. And we wanted to give it a bit of a boost. This change gives it some interesting utility in PvE and PvE. I don't think I've ever seen the Graviton Lance in PvP. So particularly with the buff to exotic primary weapons in the Witch Queen. So the Catalyst changed from granting hidden hand cannon and granting forkful weapon and turnabout. Yeah. So Grand Overture's most recent adjustments switched the missiles to fire in bursts of 5, which allows for more uh, granularity in unloading that damage. But sometimes, yeah, you just want them all to fly out at once. Well, yeah, that's what it's supposed to do. Reduce time between bursts. When in missile mode, holding the trigger will now fire all missiles in a continuous burst. Tapping will fire 5-round bursts. Okay, cool. So moving on to Cold Heart, which is another trace rifle. Arc damage type update. The Cold Heart's exotic trait, more or less being, is a trace rifle. We know it's a trace rifle. No longer fits in a world with legendary trace rifles. It doesn't. It's just not used. The ease of use on sustained damage was also pretty low. So sustained damage creates an ionic trace, and collecting an ionic trace grants energy to all your abilities. Increased grace time before the damage ramp clears from 0.113 to 0.1. So they basically took out that 13, I'm going to say like 13 milliseconds, which is good. Prometheus lens, solar damage type update, and generally this needed some tweaks to be viable. So sustained damage applies a more useful burn to targets. Wave splitter, void damage type update, and the power cycling mechanic was interesting, but ultimately had to capitalize on. Power level no longer cycles randomly. The default damage output in the same as the old middle tier. Picking up orbs of power now grant 10 seconds of maximum power and caps at 20 seconds, up from 5 and 10. So that's basically a double increase. Now suppresses targets while granted this mode by picking up an orb. Osteostriga projectiles somehow rotated by 90 degrees. Looks a bit weird. Yeah, kind of when they fire, it looks strange. Corrected rotation on projectile models. Moving on to the Lord of Wolves. Lord of Wolves is kind of a shotgun, but it has its own custom tuning. It wasn't impacted by the previous shotgun change, and was much too strong with shotguns and fusion rifles getting reduced range. This brings it to more in line. So reduced damage, fall off, start and end by 25%. So Lord of Wolves is getting a nerf. Moving on, perks. We got perks. Note where an enhanced perk exists, an adjustment is needed. It's been adjusted in the same way. So snapshot sights has felt mandatory on sniper rifles forever. With this change, a sniper rifle with snapshot sights will feel about the same, but one without snapshots feels a lot. One without snapshots will feel a lot snappier. I see what you guys are doing. Interesting. Why didn't you just raise snapshot sights? That's why you put the perk on there. That's why you put that mod on there. Anyways, increased ADS animation speed scaler from 0.5 to 0.75 for special ammo weapons. Primary ammo weapons are unchanged. which is interesting. Opening shot has felt mandatory on shotguns forever, in large part because it gives part of its buff as a damage fall off scalar. This isn't something we like on a short range weapon. You can still feel the range bump with this change unless range is already capped, but it won't let weapons push completely outside their intended engagement ranges. Remove damage fall off scalar, increased range stat bonus from plus 20 to plus 25, and other stats from this perk are unchanged, from plus 20 aim assist stat, so 5%, reduced accuracy cone angle, 10% reduced accuracy cone growth, and full choke. So this goes over all the stats. Let's go into mods. Stats they're basically all still the same. Some are getting a little bit of a buff. Some, if it is, it's only by like plus 10. See, plus or minus 10. So reduced. Mods. So Icarus Grip. Icarus Grip will now grant the airborne effectiveness stat of its previous airborne accuracy penalty scalar. Removed airborne accuracy scalar now grants plus 15 airborne effectiveness stat. Adept Icarus Grip now grants plus 15 airborne effectiveness stat and plus 5 handling. Remember, the higher airborne effectiveness, the lower the computer is going to help you out with your accuracy. Well, that was quite a bit. It was quite a bit. Really, it was. And we're going to move on. Wait, more weapon talk? Definitely. So while the following isn't about weapon tuning, we felt it was important to bundle the following with the Mega TWAB, which is more TWAB of upcoming sandbox information to keep players like you in the know. Just before last season ended, we announced a list of weapons that would be rotating out of Destiny 2 activities with little time to spare. Some of these weapons could be seen as powerhouses, which I don't know how, in previous sandbox metas, while others were just happy to be included. Next season and the season after will be no different in an effort to keep loot pools from overcrowding. As we continue to develop and release sweet new pieces of gear, we'll have a handful of weapons from Iron Banner, Nightfalls, and Trials of Osiris rotating out at the start of Season 17. We're also including a list of weapons that will be rotating out in Season 18 in hopes of giving you a full season to target anything that you might be missing from your collection. So in Season 17, leaving the loot pool at the beginning of the season from Iron Banner will be the occluded Finality Sniper Rifle, Finite Impactor Hand Cannon. So these will be rotating out. In the Nightfalls, the Comedian Shotgun will be rotating out. Palindrome will be rotating. So the Palindrome Hand Cannon will be rotating out in Trials of Osiris. Shaira's Wrath Machine Gun will be rotating out. And the Messenger Pulse Rifle will be rotating out. Leaving the loot pools at the beginning of Season 18 from Iron Banner will be the Peace Bond. So Season 17, we will be getting the Peace Bond sidearm in Iron Banner. We will also be getting Archon's Thunder Machine Gun. And in the Nightfall, we will be getting Plug 1, and the Hothead rocket launcher. So that'll give you another chance to get that adept Hothead. Trials of Osiris. We will be gaining Eye of Soul sniper rifle and the Summoner auto rifle. All right, so that basically says that next season the Summoner is rotating out or in. I don't know. No, Season 18 is a way out. So weapons included in our planned rotations are subject to change. They sure are. While we didn't have any firm plans to share, we can note that the team is aware of feedback surrounding weapon rotation and availability and looking at opportunities in the future to address it. To keep expectations in check, this is likely a longer-term investigation. So don't expect too much news over the next season. Once we have more information, we'll be sure to let you know, which is pretty cool. Near-term abilities tuning. With weapon talk out of the way, let's shift back to some near-term conversation and happenings in Destiny 2. And that's Destiny 2, well, in the near term, yeah. Anyways. So Axion Bolt base cooldown increased from 91 seconds to 152 seconds. So Axion Bolt will now take longer to charge. Titan Barricades base cooldown when Bastion Void aspect is equipped is now 82 seconds, up from 83 seconds. This matches the recharge rate of Warlock Rift. So Offensive Bulwark now provides 60% less bonus grenade energy regeneration in PvP game modes. Whisper of Chains now provides 15% bonus damage resistance against players when near a stasis crystal, down from 25%. Unchanged versus PvE targets. Interesting. Renewal grasps. So while equipped, renewal grasps increase the base cooldown of dusk field grenades from 62 seconds to 152 seconds. The outgoing damage penalty applied to player victims in the renewal grass dust field grenade reduced from 50% to 20%. So that will greatly help out. Being stuck in the dusk field grenade's a pain in the ass. Damage unchanged versus PvE targets. Cool. Gambit Labs, Moat Thief. Yeah, so Gambit Labs is coming out with, I do believe, like it says, Moat Thief next season. Looking to next week, we also have our second run of Gambit Labs coming into play. Invasion Swaps went off well, giving us great data and feedback on mode dunking, invasion cadence, and primeval healing in a world where you invited opponents onto your player field when hitting certain thresholds. For this edition of Labs, we'll be experimenting with Mode Thieves starting on April 26th. Going to be interesting again. Fundamentally, the original concept of an invader was a guardian as taken terror, overpowered and dangerous. Something new to have to fight. So while that is very compelling, we don't believe it is the only compelling invader fantasy. Well, I don't know about the fantasy part of it, but we believe the sneaky moat thief is worth exploring. Now, that is going to be interesting to be able to come over, steal their moats, and run back with them. Why not? Why? Because I can. So normal mode drain from having two blockers is disabled. Instead, every second the invader is invading, one mode drains directly from your bank to the invader's bank. I'm going to play Keep Away in Gambit. As long as I'm over there, I am taking your moats, and I'm just going to find somewhere to hide, and you're going to have to find and kill me. Yeah, it's going to be cool. So keep in mind, invaders need to be near the bank in order. Oh, well, that's just bullshit. All right, well, maybe not. So this this won't be too much of a hide and seek affair. I was jumping on the bandwagon, and then you guys kicked me off. Oh well. Um, do you prioritize clearing the active front of enemies, or do you help your teammates address a beefed up Titan relaxing behind their barricade looking for a steal? It's going to be so interesting now. Looking to steal some of your hard-earned moats. Hunters may throw a smoke bomb or two in effect to jam up your radar. Oh yeah, it's gonna be real interesting. Well, warlocks can throw a strategically placed well of radiance directly above your bank, making it easier to fight alongside the taken blockaders they've just sent over. That is going to be so interesting. So you're going to get that 15 moats. You're going to bank, or you're going to get your whole team to get 15 moats. You're all going to bank. The portal's going to open. You're going to go over. You're going to throw that rift up on top of the moat bank. They're going to have to try and take you out in your well. They're going to have to try and take the large blockers out. So now, if you've sent 4 large blockers over there, you're going to have to take them out. And I think it's going to be real fun. People are going to hate it, but I think it's going to be real fun. All right. So Prime the drop pod for rewards. Just yesterday, I was discussing some fun ghost shell options with a friend seeking a new look for their companion. Well, it started with a question of what looks the best. This little ghost shell happened to be part of this month's Prime reward drop. I don't know what I'm talking about. Well, here's a quick summary. Sign up for Prime Gaming. Oh, okay, I see. Link your Bungie.net account and get sweet cosmetics listed below with some rewards coming in future months. Oh, yes. Prime rewards. All right, moving on. And where are we on here? How much do we have left? Alrighty. What is your quest? So it can be somewhat tricky when keeping track of every quest in Destiny 2 has to offer. On occasion, quests may be abandoned to make some space in inventory or to help focus on some of the more important storylines a player is completing. Where do quests go when they have been abandoned? Well, an easy answer for some. Not all in the community are aware. This week, Destiny player support has a rundown on hotfix timelines for the next week. Emblem Grant. Players who completed the Vow of the Disciple raid during the 24-hour extension of the contest mode have been granted the day at the Pyramid Triumph and the Cleaver Emblem. Qualifying players will need to visit their postmasters and claim the lost package to unlock the destiny, or to unlock a day at the Pyramid Triumph. Claiming this triumph will then drop the Cleaver Emblem. Quest Archive. Players who are missing quests or who are attempting to reacquire previously abandoned quests should visit the Quest Archive in the Tower Courtyard, located next to the Postmaster. From here, players can reacquire abandoned quests organized by quest type. Yeah, so when you're at the Postmaster, just look to the left and there's a little kiosk right there that you can go to. Players who are unable to locate their abandoned quests at the Quest Archive should also verify that they have checked all the vendor packages of the vendors who originally provided the quest. So this goes over a bunch of the hot fixes that they're going to be going into. Known issues to go over. The renewal grasps damage buff does not always function with the dust field grenades area of effect. The Sweet Sorrow auto rifle has overly bright muzzle flash. Words in text chat may display vertically, which is just kind of weird. This can be resolved by restarting Destiny 2, and Lumina's muzzle flash is bright compared to other hand cannons. So really, this goes over, I'm going to say, everything in the TWAB for Season 17 and some of the fixes. Now, to be honest, this has been quite the TWAB. So if you guys do have any questions, hit up the devs. Come over to the channel. There, let's go back to the camera screen. So, like I said, make sure you hit up those devs. Jump onto Twitter. You can even get a hold of Bungie Help if there's any questions coming up. And if you would like to, don't forget, hit that follow button. It's going to greatly help me out, as well as hit the like button. And like I said, I'm probably live right now. Come on over to twitch.tv/Starset7Gaming and hit us up there. If there's anything that you guys need done or want to get into, we're more than able to help you out. So until my next video, everybody, you be safe out there and take care.